3, 2, 1. Hello, one and all, and welcome to the third episode of the Law Student Podcast. My name is Dean, and I'm joined today by the fantastic Mellisa Bansraj, who is our Director of Education here at the Society, and Stella Tsakires, who is our Equity and Wellbeing Officer. So guys, why don't we introduce ourselves? Mel, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hey everyone, my name's Mellisa and I'm your Director of Education this year for the Griffith Law Society. Some of our listeners might know that, I'm the one that sends out the massive broadcast emails to everybody, just spamming them about what the Law Society is up to and what sort of things that the education portfolio has. But I've enjoyed every part of GULS. I've been involved with GULS for the past year. Being the education officer last year, so I thought to maybe step up and be the Director of Education. A little bit about me. I'm a final trimester Law and Government International Relations student here at the Nathan campus. Yeah, bit of a mouthful, but I'm just not ready to leave yet, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. I've enjoyed my Griffith journey so much, and I just can't wait to share a little bit about that on the podcast today.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Stella?
Yeah, so I'm Stella. I'm the Equity and Wellbeing Officer for this year. So I joined GULS this year, so I'm pretty new to it. I'm second year JD, and yeah, I've enjoyed meeting you guys and everyone in the society and kind of getting stuck into doing more stuff with uni life.
Awesome, fantastic. Well guys, we're talking about today is, our theme of the podcast is grades, good times, and mental health. So the old idea is the old adage of you can't have all three. Very funny. Anyway, so the listeners might know that we touched on this a bit in the first podcast, but today we want to get into the real nitty-gritty of it, what it is, how to help it, how to manage all three. But firstly, I think we can all agree that a massive part of, especially your first year at uni, is embarrassment. It's a huge part. I know at least it was for me. It might be for you guys as well. And you do something embarrassing, you think you're alone, you think it's only you, but in fact everyone stuffs up, and that's okay. I think that's a good takeaway message from the first couple of minutes. So here's an example for me. I gave the first example in the first podcast of me walking into the wrong classroom. Actually, in one of my first ever lectures in the massive N47, N43 theatres, turned up late, naturally, as I always do. Took a seat, in the middle, somewhere around the middle, and then anyway, I had a coffee in my hand, sat down, and used the little tables that are always shocking, and I was sitting on one of the really bad ones back before they all fixed them, and coffee goes everywhere. And all over myself, and then the lecturer stopped and looked at me too, which made it so much worse. And everyone's just looking back. Oh, it was so embarrassing. But I sat through it, laughed it off with a couple of people afterwards, and now it's funny. Now I can laugh about it.
In hindsight, yeah.
What about you guys?
I sort of had a similar sort of situation in a lecture. So in Tri 3, my very first year, and for some of our listeners who might not know this, Tri 3 is actually optional. So it's not compulsory, so I decided to do that over the summer. This was in my first year, and it was a subject called media law. So this was about maybe week 3 or 4 into the course, and I decided to turn up a little bit early to my lecture. And we're all about coming early to our lectures and things like that. But for me, in my case, I got there, and because the door was see-through, so I can see who was already there, I saw some students in there already, and I thought, okay, cool, there are some people in there, I might as well go in, get set up, that sort of thing. So I opened the door, got there, went to the back of the room and realised, okay, well, I can just get my stuff out, ready to go. Then I looked at the front, and there was already a class happening. People who I didn't know, saw a lecturer that really wasn't my own, and on the board were these weird Cartesian planes, which were about graphs and maths, and I was like, okay, this is definitely not my class, but I'll just play it off, I'll play it cool. So I was still there for a bit, and this was a few minutes before my actual class was supposed to start, and the lecturer was like, are you supposed to be here? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And he goes, what class are you waiting for? And I thought, oh, okay, well, might as well just tell him now. I'm here for a class called Media Law. We start at 10 o'clock. I thought to come in early, but, maybe I shouldn't have walked in here. I actually didn't look when I was walking in the class to see what was actually happening. So then, they were talking about quadratics and that sort of thing, which is basically how to graph things on on an actual graph. And so I thought, okay, well, I don't want to flex my knowledge or anything, so I'll just like observe and see what happens.
You're better than them.
Exactly. I should have said something, but I didn't. And then they basically finished the class off, and I realised, okay, well, I could have answered a few questions and pretended I actually was in this class. But the only reason I could have done that is because I did like a lot of maths and science subjects at school. So straight out of school, I thought I could do this, but no. So yeah, that was kind of my embarrassing story, but that's the only embarrassing story that I've had. I mean, I think we all have those stories where we walk into a class, it's not even ours, or like we spill coffee on ourselves, or we just, we're not even in the right place. Like I think those sorts of, moments make our first year experience so much more, enjoyable and rewarding, and it's something to look back on when you graduate, or if you're in my position, when you're about to graduate. So there's that.
Yeah, I have hundreds of them. And for example,
I do too. Heaps, not just one thing.
And you can, make a podcast and talk about it every week, which is also another option. What about yourself, Stella? Do you have any embarrassing stories?
I think I was first year in my undergrad, so I was in Western Australia, and I was really nervous for some reason, just really shy. And I remember sitting down for a tute, and the tutor called me Sarah, and I was so weirdly nervous that I just accepted. I was like, yep, this is my name. So I went the entire semester being Sarah, and it got really awkward toward the end where I had to present, and she was like, oh, why is the name Stella here? And I had to weirdly say to her, oh, well, I go through both names, you can call me Sarah or Stella. It was a really awkward, weird time. So.
Also, good on you for not just calling her out. Just my name's Stella.
It would much be better to call it. Yeah, anyway, so I was a stealth Sarah for the whole semester.
That's awesome. I've gotten Dan a lot. And then it does get very awkward to that point where they have to write your name down. It's
you're like, D.
Yeah. And now it's so much easier because everything's online, so they actually see, and they actually call you out by your name if you need to answer a question or ask something too.
Yeah.
So they can't escape with it now.
Gone are the days of not being known by your lecturers. So firstly, guys, let's talk about good strategies for firstly getting good grades at law school. So everyone knows that you're here to study, you're here to learn, and hopefully you're here to pass your subjects or do really well in your subjects or whatever your goal might be. So obviously we've all got a bit of experience at classes at uni and doing maybe well at uni, maybe not so well in some, more than others. But yeah, so what do we think our tips are for actually, passing and doing well in courses?
I think it's the intention. I think you actually have to want to do well.
Yeah.
Because if you wing it and if you just, kind of rock up with no intention to do well and you leave things to the last minute, you don't hold yourself accountable to a goal.
Yeah.
So I think firstly just saying that you want to do well actually sets you up for more success than failure, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, because you've got to have that mindset to be able to come to class and, actually participate, actively listen and learn. And that really just forms not just the basis for, your entire law degree, but also in whatever profession that you choose to go into after. It's about, how much time and dedication you want to spend on that sort of thing. Which also leads me to talk about the importance of actually coming to class in the first place, especially now with, online classes. It's so much easier just to roll out of bed and go into class. Or come onto campus and that sort of thing, but you really get the most out of your uni experience, whether that be online or in person, if you come to class. I know it might be hard for some of our students last year and this year as well with having the blended learning or not being able to come onto campus and actually have those classes, but still come to them anyways. You never know what you might learn or who you might meet. And it's just really important to connect with the lecturers here we have at Griffith. They're so amazing. They're literally up for a chat any time. You can see them in their consultation hours, and they're really approachable too. So you have the best of both worlds, and you're going to the number one uni, the best uni. So you might as well just make the most out of it while you're here.
Yeah.
Do you get $1 for every time you say that? Best uni? Is that just
be remarkable, everybody. That's what they want us to hear. So no,
exactly.
it's great.
No, but it's true. I think I think your university is the only time in your life where you'll be able to kind of experiment with how you are in the world, if that makes sense. Like, you're going to have a job after this, you're going to have a 9 to 5, you're going to be working hard, doing things that you can't kind of set your own intention and goals. So if you look back and you didn't rock up to anything, you don't really have that experience of being able to like grow as a person. So yeah, it's really important.
I think that is really important. Not only just showing up, but showing up and actually showing up prepared.
Definitely.
And showing up and participating.
Yep.
I think that just gets your 100% out of your classes. You know, the old phrase, study smarter, not harder. You know, I personally think that if you turn up to class prepared, ask questions, participate, don't sit in the back, don't sit on your phone, don't, you know, be half hungover, ideally, you know, sit in the back instead. Actually turn up, actually be prepared, and actually engage. And I think that, you know, would save you, say, 10 hours of staring at a textbook every week.
Definitely. You grasp it at such a deeper level too when you're actually involved, rather than being like a passive person looking on. So
it's the old phrase. You know, some people get annoyed at, say, there's an old thing of mature age students getting there and turning up and asking questions. And I think that's just because they realise quicker than school leavers that they're paying, but they're paying to be there. They're going to get their value for money.
Yep.
And even if you have it, because often law students love to have an argument or a debate, let's call it, about something. Even if you don't necessarily agree with someone, if you're talking about the content and saying, oh, this case means that, this case obviously means that, even if you think they're wrong, those arguments are going to test your knowledge and actually
definitely
let that grow, like a muscle kind of thing.
Yeah. Definitely. And that's why it's good to just be able to have a chat with someone in your classes or whatever to see, you know, what their thinking is like, because chances are that these people you have a chat to might be your colleagues or your employees down the track too, so you get to see like both sides and see how that plays out.
Definitely.
And I think you touched on something really powerful before too, of reaching out to your lecturers and tutors in consultation times.
Yeah.
I never did that in my first, second or third year, and I regret it immensely. Yeah. Because by the time you do your first one, and for me that was in my fourth year, by the time you do your first one, you're like, this was here all along, why am I not talking? Because there is that sort of, that thing when you go to law school, you're told by your teachers in high school, you know, your teachers aren't there to help you, you know, there's no support, blah, 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 blah.
But they are.
Yeah, exactly.
They're really there to help you. And also, like, asking a question if you're not sure of something about the assignment. Like, there's so many people I know that go through an assignment and don't do well, and they're like, oh, it's because I wasn't certain about this one aspect. Just send a quick email or just talk to them after class, they clarify it, and it also builds on your knowledge, and the class probably has the same question. I think it's really important to, you know, be vocal.
Exactly, and they're really just there to help you, and a lot of people just don't realise this. Like in my first year, I heard this word called consultation times, and I thought, wow, that sounds very formal. I mean, why would they call it something like that? But no, they're really informal. Like, they're just, like, our lecturers are there to help us. And so, I mean, I've been using consult times since, like, my first year, because I didn't really know what was going on, and if I had any questions, I like to see people and have a chat to them about it first. And so I do these things for assignments, just general questions about the course. I know as I get into like my third and my fourth years, all the lecturers were saying, like, making announcements on Learning at Griffith, going, we've got consultation times, but no one's coming to see us. What is happening? Please come and see us. Like, we really do want to help. And this was back, obviously, when we had in-person classes, and so they would literally have a room, whether it be like their office or like just a random building here in the uni. They would literally take time out of their busy schedules and just, you know, have a time there for us. And that just means a lot. And I think that sets us apart from all the other unis, because I hear stories from some of my friends from other unis, and they go, oh, like, our lecturers just expect us to understand everything at the first go, and that's it. Like, we don't have a chance to have a chat with them, or, you know, even if we do send an email, it's like, oh, refer to the textbook, or like, you know, go and watch this lecture or read this article. So I guess that's why, like, for some of our listeners, like, you really do want to have a chat to your lecturers and tutors. They're really only there to help you, and especially where you might, for instance, say if you have an assignment and this is the first assignment of the course, it might be a hypothetical for one of your law subjects, or it might be just something else if you're doing a double degree, and you don't think you did so well or you could have done better, and they provide you with some comments, which is really nice of them. Go and have a chat to them, see what you could have done to maybe improve that grade a little bit. or you might want to change like your writing style, in which case, you know, they can always be there to help you with that too.
And I think that's also a really good point, because say if you don't do as well as you wanted to do, as you're expected to do an assignment, you get that bad feedback, and it's very easy just to sit there and go, oh, so, you know, what's his face? I hate him, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's probably not the best way to do it, because if Mr. What's his face thinks this, teacher XYZ, lecturer XYZ is probably going to think the same way too. So if you get that feedback early on, like if you got a really bad first assignment in your first year at law school, and you actually went to your lecturer, actually listened to the feedback, and then you did all that feedback in your next, you know, 1,000 assignments over your law degree, how good is that? Your next 1,000 assignments going to be?
Yeah, exactly.
But even if they're not good on your next 1,000 assignments, like even if you're used to doing well, maybe, and then you get that really soul-crushing essay, it's having resilience and, you know, understanding that it's not the end of the world just because you got one bad mark, and you can always bounce back and take it on the chin and, grow from the experience.
Exactly, and it's a bit of a trial and error thing as well. I mean, especially if you're in your first year at the moment, you're having to listen to some of our experiences. So I'm towards the end of my degree, in fact, but you guys have like ages to go. So it's all about like trying to see what works, what style of writing works, and see if you can sort of adapt and change to it every single time you get an assignment, because like hypotheticals are obviously different to an actual essay, and so the style of writing is a bit different. But if you have a chat to your lecturers, they'll be able to guide you in the right direction to see what they're after, because that's what all these assessments are about. They actually want to assess you on something that they've been teaching you throughout, like, you know, the 12 weeks of your course. So that's all it is. So if you don't do well the first time, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to try and improve yourself, and I think that's really great.
And get that solid foundation early. I think that's all those first year subjects are about. Obviously you need to learn contract, you need to learn foundations, you need to learn crime, but I think they're more so about getting that strong legal skills foundation, you know, learning how to write an ILAC style, you know, learning how to reference, stuff like that. So speaking of, how do we think, and I know this is a big question for first year students, and my own mentee asked me this, how does one prep for a law exam?
It's different for everyone, but I think there are definitely some kind of consistent rules. Not leaving things till the week or the day before.
Yeah, agree with that.
The earlier that you get started, the better.
Yeah.
And I think it's also understanding your own learning style, because everyone has different learning styles, right? So if you're someone that likes to write, you can rewrite the things out so it gets in your head. If you're someone that needs to walk around, I think it's kinesthetic learner.
Yeah.
You can walk around and recite things. Also teaching people. That's the thing for me. If I can speak to someone and try to explain the concept to someone else, I understand what I'm not understanding. And then that builds on your already kind of base knowledge really well. You understand the gaps, and teaching someone, I think, is probably one of the best tools that I've learned.
Because if you can, you know, explain the content to someone else, then you know that you understand it, which is a really good tactic. I guess in my experience, like having, like understanding like what sort of learning style suits you best, whether you're like a visual learner or like you like, I don't know, like a lot of writing on a page, but it also depends on how you structure your notes too. I mean, because I've spent most of my degree, you know, having on-campus classes, and, you know, everyone knows that if you have a 2-hour exam, you want to, prepare for it well in advance. So you bring, like, massive stacks of books and notes and that sort of thing. But I've actually, you know, since, like, my second year of uni, realised that there's really good, like, fine art in just, you know, preparing like, for your notes and things like that. So, like, if I can, like, share a bit of a personal story. So, constitutional law I did in my third year, and I actually didn't know what the course was like talking about until maybe like the end of the whole 12 weeks. I was like, okay, this is this is it. So I didn't actually realize until that very moment, because it just clicked all of a sudden. So I made these notes, and they were about 15 pages long, and it covered the entire course from back to front. And I was just able to take those in double-sided, so that was only about 7.5. Take them in, and everybody else around me just before I walked into the exam had like these massive thick textbooks, binders, folders, briefs, you name it. They had literally everything. I'm thinking, gee whiz, did I not prepare well? Like I sort of just doubted myself for a little bit. I didn't have the textbook either, so I literally just came in with like a little folder with like some, you know,
7
pages of
pages.
notes. That's it, yeah. And to my surprise, like I did everything, and I'm thinking, okay, I did pretty well in that. Let's see what my results were. And I did really, really well, like surprisingly so well. So from that moment on, I structured my notes in the same way as that Consti exam. So the way that I did that was like, this sounds so cliche, going through the lecture slides for the actual course, finding out exactly what the lecturers want, and then sort of match that with what they spoke about in the workshops, because you go through the hypotheticals in your workshops as well. So I thought, okay, well, this makes sense. And like I said before, like they only want to assess you what they've taught you on. So I thought, what can I like do to sort of, you know, replicate that? So what I did was so for Consti you talk about all sorts of provisions in the Constitution, and you have those sorts of cases. So I structured my notes into topics, right? So, you know,
the defence power, the taxation power.
So I had like basically 2 pages for each thing. Put out like an introductory thing, like I'm requested to advise so and so, because we had a specific person we had to advise, and then I just basically went from there. And like you really try and integrate, you know, your lecture slides and your notes from your workshops right into those notes that you're going to create. And I thought this is the best thing ever, because literally all I was doing was like, you know, writing stuff out, and this was already in my notes. I didn't have to think, and that's what I think makes my notes like the best ever notes I've ever created, because I literally just have it there on the bit of paper and I'm able to write it down real quick. Don't have to think, don't have to, you know, waste any time. And I think, you know, finding that style of, you know, structuring your notes is really important. And if you're in your first or second year now, you've still got quite a bit to go. You can always like have that trial and error with that as well. It takes time, it takes practice, and it took me until my 3rd year to figure that out. But I think, just having the best notes that work for you is really good. But especially now, you know, being online, it's a different story. Like you don't want to be printing out so many things and, you know, not using them. But like use Word, use OneNote if you have that. There's some really good things out there to be able to, you know, help you structure your notes. Or if you are a visual learner, like, you know, feel free to just scribble on bits of paper and just have them out, you know, on your room wall and that sort of thing. I think that really helps.
I agree.
I think it's just whatever works for you at the end of the day. And to touch on what you've said, it doesn't matter if you don't have 4 things that bind us. The thing I say to first is when they ask me how to prep for exams, I liken it to say like a soldier with his rifle, or a painter with a paintbrush, or you know, a tradie with their tools. You got to know whatever they are. You got to know them back to front. You could bring in a stack of papers about this high, but if you don't know what's in that stack of papers, they're completely useless to you. Because in a 2-hour exam, or even a 2-day exam online, you're not going to be able to read through it and decipher it.
But
So
it shows that you're not actually that prepared.
If
You're having to bring in all the resources possible. I think the people that have the smaller notes are the ones that generally do better. So,
So, and with that, start early. You know, start prepping for exams in week 10 and 11, maybe even earlier. And take good notes in class. You know, it all comes back to showing up to class, being engaged, being prepared, actually taking notes, actually asking questions. So it also links back.
Definitely.
It does,
And also take advantage of everything that's around you. So GULS, we have our exam buster sessions. They have their pass sessions they run every week for first year courses.
They're really good.
You know, and like we said, the lecturers, consultation times.
Definitely.
And like you said, Melissa, draft hypotheticals I think are the best way to prep for exams as well.
Because chances are, like even in that Consti exam that I had, literally the same questions were basically in the exam, just like the names were changed. And I thought, this is just too good to be true. Like I'm lucky that I actually prepared for those hypothetical questions we
They
got.
often do leave Easter eggs.
Yeah.
It's often the same. I just did a test and I looked at the practice test questions and answers, and like 5 of them were the same. So if I hadn't looked at it, I wouldn't have gotten the mark I did. So
Perfect.
And sorry for all the blokey references, but another thing I talk about
Soldier and his rifle.
Well, an NRL player, there's a saying in NRL, I forget who said it, it's probably like Matthew Johns or something. You know, train so hard that the game looks easy.
Yes,
So if you've done like 5
prepare,
practice hypotheticals, and you're doing one exam, you're probably going to be really, if you're doing them properly, and you're actually having a crack at them, and you know, grading yourself and, you know, reading over it and trying again and thinking, what could I do better, your exam point is going to be that hard.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's a lot of like, you know, beauty in that, because not only, you know, you're preparing for the exam, but you're doing it in advance to the point where you actually just, like I said before, you don't have to think too hard. I mean, if you can bring those answers,
muscle memory.
literally, you just write it all out. I mean, how good is that? It's just like, they're just really just out there to try and help you do well. And as soon as you spot that pattern, because like I said, it didn't take me until like, you know, second, third year to realise that, oh, right, law school exams have a pattern now. And that's what they said at the very start.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you guys are kidding. Like, what are you talking about? And got into it, and I was like, right, okay, this is exactly it. So yeah, like just having really good notes, reaching out to your lecturers and tutors if you need a hand with that, and especially with exams. Like, there's going to be a lot of questions. You're not going to be like, you know, right, what's a contract in like week 12? I mean, sure, they'll be able to help you out, but like keeping up to date with all your notes and your content is something really that you should be doing. So, yeah.
So to segue onto our second topic, and I think it's all the more relevant considering what we just discussed. So mental health in law school. So I think staying healthy in law school, physically and mentally, is a challenge, and it is something that a lot of people struggle with, and I think most people struggle with at one time or another.
Yeah.
I know for the Australian population broadly, somewhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 people experience like things like anxiety during their life, and I would probably put a good bet on there being that, if not more, in law school at some point or another throughout your degree. So I think that's, from the outset of this discussion, I think that's important to highlight. You know, if you are in law school and if you are going through, you know, anxiety, depression, stress, but especially stress, you're not alone.
No,
Yeah, you are definitely, you're definitely in a pack of people who are feeling the same things.
Stressed,
Yeah, so you're not alone, you're not unique in that, you're not a failure, you know, everyone's feeling the same thing, and it's not what it is, it's a stressful environment, and you know, especially, you know, the expectations people put on themselves.
I think that's the root of it too, that generally law students do want to achieve high grades, so when you set the bar so high, if you fall short, you can really feel like a failure. So I think that's a really important kind of concept to understand, is that you don't have to always be the best, or always have the best hypothetical style, or do the best in the exam. There are going to be times that you don't do well. Like statistically, you can't win at everything. So you have to be prepared for those times that you don't do well, and understand that that's completely normal. And yeah, be kind to yourself. Just like, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. That's really important.
Exactly, and you're here for, you know, a fair bit. So you want to make sure that you're looking after yourself, and doing that, you know, by doing the things that you like, or hanging out with the people that you want to hang out with, or doing things that really make you happy. And there's a lot of stigma, as Stella was just talking about. There's a lot of stigma with law students just wanting to be the best in everything, and they want to be able to, like, you know, flex that, which I guess it's all right, but not when you feel like that you haven't achieved as well as you could have, and you beat yourself down for, you know, not getting that 7, or not getting, you know, those full marks in that particular assignment. So I guess like it's not the be all or the end all. Like as much as we like to say that grades matter, they do matter, but it's not the only thing that matters here in law school. You've got all sorts of things happening. You've got great extracurricular activities you can do here at uni. You know, if you surround yourself with a good circle of friends, you know, hang out with them, build these connections and relationships. And yeah, it's not really stated a lot to look after yourself. But I remember in my my O week, back when I was a first year, about to start first year, and I was in one of those you know, Banco court sessions, and one of the first few things they started talking about was mental health, and I was like, okay, this is a new thing for me. Let's listen to what they had to say. And one of the things they were saying was mental health affects most people in the profession, you know, i.e. lawyers. And I thought, wow, like that struck out to me. The fact that they mentioned it at the very start, and they say, you know, it's going to be a difficult journey for some of you. You might burn out, you might get a little bit too stressed, you know, depressed, anxiety, that sort of thing. And I thought, wow, like they're highlighting this at the start because they know that this is a potential thing that could happen to you when you do practice, or, you know, if you do want to go into the law or any other profession that you might want to choose. And I think, you know, just highlighting that now, and, you know, seeing that, you know, it could potentially be something that could maybe escalate down the future is something that we should probably, you know, keep in mind, because it's all about how you look after yourself.
Definitely.
And we all live, busy lives, studying, working, social events, commitments, that sort of thing. It's really hard to pack in that 30 minutes of, exercise or meditation or that sort of thing. But, you've got to try and do that to be able to maintain your mental health and well-being, because it's so important. It doesn't get stressed enough. But that's what we do as a law society to make sure that, students of the law school feel like they can, be supportive of each other, and most importantly, have a chat about, what's been happening, what's going on, because I think that's so important, just reaching out and having those conversations, because it's all part of the experience, for sure.
I agree, yeah.
I think it's important to, and as you say, Mellisa, this conversation is becoming more and more apparent, and I would even say the exact same thing as you, that 4 years ago, this was not as hot a topic as it is now. It's becoming increasingly prevalent in conversation, which I think can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to recognise the signs as well. Kind of like how if you have a sore knee, you wouldn't go for a run tomorrow, would you?
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you're having, physical signs like a tightened chest, heart rate, panic attacks, or if you're having psychological signs like, fear and worry, and, you don't want to get out of bed, or obsessive thinking, you're overthinking stuff, don't run on that leg tomorrow. Do those things that make you happy, that reduce that stress. And, take care of yourself. It's not... your grades should not be at the sacrifice of your mental health.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
And don't ignore it. Don't think that it's that you're weak, because it's not that you're weak, it's that you obviously care about getting good grades, you care about something, but there is a line, and you've got to seek balance, or else law is not your life. You have a life, hopefully. And you want to strike a really good balance. It's important.
Definitely. And especially you're here for about 4 or 5 years at uni, and those grades, once you leave uni, won't be the thing that really defines you. It's a bit like if you're from one of those schools where they did OPs and that sort of thing. A lot of people are getting stressed over that. The fact that it was only just a number that didn't define you, but it got you into uni, says a lot about these sorts of things, about how important grades are. Yes, they are important, but they're not the be all end all. Once you've graduated uni and you go on to maybe doing maybe another degree, or if you want to go and practice as a lawyer or a legal professional of some sort, grades don't matter after that. It's about how you interact with people, what you do, and that sort of thing. And just please don't beat yourself up over grades. It's so important to be able to look back at that experience and go, well, I did really well in those circumstances, and I think that I even though I could have done better, it's not really about that. It's about other things as well. And mental health is so important. As Dean said, it's only just come to light recently, and it's something that should be spoken about more often and more openly as well.
So, guys, let's talk about. Okay, let's say, we've acknowledged that law school is stressful. And we acknowledge that, mental health issues are prevalent in law students. So what are some good sort of tips and habits to get into to sort of best improve or keep mentally healthy and, study and do well at law school? So, for example, I'd say eat well.
Yes.
The food that you put in your body is directly correlated to, your mood, your energy levels, stuff like that. So eating good, green, healthy food.
Not just ramen.
Not just ramen. Exactly. You eat ramen for a week, you're going to feel shocking after it. So what about everyone else? What do we think?
I think exercise. I think that's the thing that everyone says, and you always think, it can't be that good, it's not the be all and end all or whatever. But I used to be one of those people that did not move, and then I realized that I would be getting stressed and I'd feel flustered, and as soon as you can get out and actually go for a run or a walk or do some there's great stuff on YouTube of 15-minute high intensity workouts. Afterwards you actually can think better, and it's so important for actually being able to process information. If you're sitting down all day and looking at a computer screen all day, you're actually doing yourself more harm because you can't focus. So that's really important, I think.
Definitely, and especially when you touch on screen time, especially now with online learning, it's we're always looking at our computer screens or our phones and our laptops. It's when will it end? So I guess in that space, making sure that you do take a break from your screen. I
Yeah.
think that's so important.
Get off TikTok.
Get off TikTok. Get off social media.
I think that relates to both grades and mental health.
Yeah, exactly. And like just being able to do something else with your time, like, you know, if you can spend maybe half an hour on, you know, TikTok or, you know, social media or that sort of thing, like you'd be able to spend half an hour at least exercise or just, you know,
Yes.
meditating or breathing.
Walking.
Even
Breathing
just, yeah,
exercises.
definitely.
I think people don't realise how shallow you breathe. Like when you're stressed, you breathe at a capacity that's not nearly where you should be breathing.
Yeah.
So as soon as you do meditation or a breathing exercise, you're like, why do I feel de-stressed?
Mm.
It's because you're actually breathing properly. So
Yeah.
getting into the habit of, you know, 6 deep breaths apparently resets your brain. So yeah, do it. If you're feeling flustered, just take a big deep breath in and out 6 times.
And that was the one thing that when someone told me that, I told them where to, you know, stick it, let's say. You know, oh, I got this assignment, I got that assignment, you know, I've got work tomorrow.
Just breathe. Yeah.
Just breathe,
Sounds
Dean.
stupid.
Oh, I'll tell you what to do. You know, mate, go on. But it actually is. It's so simple. It's
It is.
brilliant.
It does work.
I bought an Apple Watch. I'm not wearing it today, but I bought an Apple Watch recently, and you know how it tells you the being up, the breathe thing?
Yes, yeah.
Breathe?
Yeah.
I almost threw the thing out when it told me to breathe for the first time.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like, breathe. Oh, yeah, I know how to, you know, breathe. But it actually, like, when you're actually stressed and you're like, you know, thinking, you know, everything's coming down on you, and just sitting down for a minute and just breathing makes
It's weird
all the
how much
difference.
it works.
Yeah, it's so weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
We love breathing.
Love breathing.
Love breathing.
It's great. Every day. Yeah, and there's apps for that as well, such as Calm and Headspace.
Calm is good.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to recognise, like we said, you know, recognise those signs and reach out for help if you need it. You know,
Yes.
if running is going for a run and catching up on sleep and coffee and not drinking coffee and, you know, breathing can only do so much. But reaching out for help is also really important.
Yes.
Definitely.
Don't feel like you should wait it out.
Mm.
Get help.
Yeah.
Everyone at some point in their life will go through a really tough period.
100%.
And I think that the sooner that you can kind of understand that and then take the appropriate steps means that you're going to be so much better later on. So, yeah.
Definitely.
So with that, there's a couple of things. The Griffith have some great support services. So they have a wellbeing support line that you can ring up or text at any time. They have counselling appointments that are discounted for students. They have mental health first aid workshops as well. Those will all be in the description if you want to reach out for those support services. And they're great as well. The uni really are really taking this seriously, more and more so.
Yeah.
And GULS is always here. Office hours are always open. N61 negative 2.07 Monday to Friday 11 to 2. Even if you just want to come and have a chat with someone.
Yes.
Someone that you don't talk to every day.
Yeah.
It is sometimes refreshing to talk to an older student
Yeah.
Definitely.
Put yourself out there.
Mm.
Yeah.
who's done Consti and you go, I don't understand Consti, so you go, don't worry, neither did I, mate, when I did it, alright?
Yeah, exactly.
The tips, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, please do come and visit us because I've had a couple of office hours this trimester and not one student has come to see me. And I'm waiting here going,
You feel lonely.
I do feel lonely. And I'm
So you
waiting
guys
here.
come see Mellisa.
Please
Come
come
on.
and see me.
So last trimester at uni, she needs to make some friends.
Honestly, I do. And if you do come along, you will literally make my day. So you know where to find us. So that's N61, negative 2.07, Law School Building. Just follow where the noise is at because that's probably where we're going to be. But it's really good just to be able to talk to an older student because I wish I did that. I mean, I had a mentor in my first year because of the law school's, the GULS mentoring program. But it's nice to be able to chat to more than, you know,
The same person,
yeah, so definitely like come and have a chat to us. We're always going to be here, and definitely make the most out of it because you know very rarely that you hear student societies like actually have, you know, office hours.
Yeah.
Your
And they're
lecturers-
willing to meet people too,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly, and that's just, you know, it's all part of it. It's a fun social environment to be in. So
We're a chatty bunch, that's for sure.
yeah, can't stop talking.
Yeah, and if you want any more information on the hard and fast details of what we talked about today, we have our GULS first year guide and our GULS mental health guide on Issue or on the GULS social media platforms.
Or chances are you probably can see it on the emails because I've spammed everyone with this.
Spamming.
Or if you want to a copy of it or, anything like that, just please don't hesitate to get in touch because we can definitely provide that for you. Because some of what we've spoken about today is actually in there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both very much for coming on. I'm sure
Thank
everyone
you.
found it very insightful. It is nice to talk about these things in an open way, and I
Yeah.
think the more people do it, the better off people will be generally.
Definitely.
But anyway, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time on the Law Student Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.